R5C, a camera that once existed only in our imagination for many years. A dream we wish was true. Now it is. But holding it in real life, does it live up to our imagination? And if so, who did Canon dream up this camera for? Welcome back everyone. Today's episode is not an in-depth review of the R5C but more like a collection of thought after using it. Why this camera exists and who is the potential user for it. Up front, I love using this camera for the image quality. I love using Canon Cinema menu system. I love basically 90% of these little bits of the 8K 60p RAW camera. There's just 10% of it I think could be improved on. That's a nice way to put it. The blunt way would be, there's a 10% of this camera I dislike. Let's first focus on the good thing about this camera. Everyone is talking about it. Image quality. Yes, 8K 60p RAW, 4K 120p, XFAVC codecs, no record limit, never overheat, dual native ISO at ISO 800 and 3200, C-Log 3, wide DR, and the list just goes on. The footage out of this camera is beautiful. The price is we do need a rather powerful editing machine to deal with it, especially 8K 60p RAW. Even my M1 Max does struggle a little bit. It takes work to play that raw footage back. After all, it's not a HEVC or H.264 or ProRes. Your computer needs to decompress and deblayer all the raw data before it can even show you an image. So if you plan to shoot in 8K 60p, 12-bit RAW LT, make sure you are ready for time in post, money for media, and tons of storage. 128GB of card only can do 6 minutes of that RAW. But Canon did put in a nice friendly codec for us to work with, XFAVC. With 4K oversample from 8K, the footage is beautiful and clean. Of course, it's much smaller burden for your computer and storage system compared to RAW. Or if you're okay with H.265, it can record up to 8K 30p with excellent quality too. The idea of having two operating systems in one camera is simply brilliant. To those who are used to Canon Cinema lineup, we will feel at home. Just the layout and the mapping of the buttons will require some time to get used to. And for anyone that never used a Canon Cinema camera, this is a good time to get into the system. With the Canon Cinema system, most welcoming feature for me will be the waveform. This is the feature every camera should have for video. Now, the lack of IBIS, in-body stabilization, could be said to be slightly controversial with the camera. If you think of this as hybrid mirrorless, IBIS is something very much needed for photography or run-and-gun videography. But as a cinema camera, IBIS is not quite as crucial. because most of the time we rigged up the camera heavily, either on gimbal, slider, tracks, car rigs, and many more situations. So yes, the essence of IBIS for me is somehow reasonable and forgettable. And this camera also have a feature that is very much appreciated within the cinema industry: time code. I love the fact that the Canon is aware of this necessity, but I really wish the type of connection used for it is some more industry standard. This requires a very specific cable for it to work. Also, it doesn't come cheap. Anyway, it's still a feature better present than absent. Alright, my 90% of loves mostly end here. Now the 10% left over that I wish was better start with a simple one. HDMI port. I mean, micro HDMI port. Rolling shutter is there, but it's kinda acceptable and understandable as this is an 8K sensor. We can't expect to be living in a perfect world, right? As a Canon cinema camera, there is no built-in ND. This is somewhat of a disappointment for me. Although there is a variable ND adapter for EF lenses, you will miss out for an option when using native RF lenses. Not to mention the drop-in ND filter, variable ND filter of this adapter is not easy for fine tunings. There is also some color shift at its maximum density, so I always have to dial it back a little. Battery. There's a new LP E6 NH. It's gained slightly more capacity over the classic E6, but it's still not enough to feed this power-hungry monster. One battery usually doesn't last longer than 30 minutes, regardless I'm recording or just having the screen on for compositing a shot. Anyway, this is not the biggest problem yet. The biggest problem, in my opinion, is how there's insufficient power to simultaneously record 8K 60p while powering the lens, autofocus and aperture. The easiest solution would be attach a PD compatible power bank to the camera. In short, every time I shoot it with this camera, I have to carry a power bank or rig it with a power bank and have a long USB cable dangle for my setup. I just hope Canon can develop a stronger battery or perhaps solve this issue using a battery grid. So, who is this camera for? If maximum 8K image quality from a small package with no record limit and some feature from a Canon Cinema EOS system is what you need, the R5C will satisfy the need wonderfully. But if not, I think the R5 without C will be a better deal for hybrid shooter. As for film industry professional, this is a perfect high quality crash cam that is small and compact enough to rig anywhere a production design angle from. Canon R5C. Indeed, that specific camera for the someone who need a camera for purpose rather specific. But for anyone else, it is still a camera one cannot simply dismiss, because it's actually an incredible good deal. Consider how much it can do and how much Canon could charge for it. That's all for the episode. If you love to see more videos just like this, subscribe, like and comment to let me know. I'm Jayz, see you in the next video. 8K 60p 12-bit RAW. Nothing can complain.